I guess I'm gonna have to cut that out. I don't even know what it says. I guess I don't really have to cut that out because it's just me talking about how I want to start making dioramas and how much I loved the zine fair that I went to last weekend and how much I'm excited about my yarn. So I guess I don't really need to cut that out. But I do think it's funny that I started writing morning pages on the top of this, and I'm kind of worried that maybe this format of video series is now going to ruin the whole like framework of morning pages for me. Um but I don't think that I think that, you know, morning pages is a, like I said, a framework for thinking about our reflective practice that's required as artists and non-artists, I guess, but I get, well, is everyone an artist? That's a question. Is everyone an artist? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I do think that like putting it through a bit of rigor or a ringer for myself about, you know, what it means as a format and how it can be helpful for me, um, is worthwhile. So if making these videos and calling it morning pages breaks the reflective morning practice of journaling for me, first of all, I'd be very surprised. And second of all, yeah, I kind of feel like then it should be broken because yeah, it's not. Also, I mean, I'm going to try to find the meme that's basically like the only way to do the artist's way is to say you're going to do it and never do it. So I think there's like a little bit of jest to calling this morning pages. And I hope that anybody who really takes the artist's way seriously knows that joke and can laugh at themselves a little bit. Um, and yeah, I mean, laughing at ourselves and maintaining our humor is really, really essential. And this is where I'm going to start crying. No, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for me to do this and actually cry. Um, but what was I going to say? Um, as someone who's been through a lot of different things that have been very challenging, I mean, it's not a contest. It's not a contest for who's suffered more. That is my merch I'm gonna come out with though. It's a shirt that just says suffering on it. But yeah, it's not a competition for who has suffered more and, you know, who is the most enlightened and realized because of navigating and moving through that suffering. But no, it's not. I will say, as someone who has been through a lot of different things that I feel like I've had to, you know, reach on my internal strength to be able to overcome, humor is such a crutch to be able to get through those times. It kind of like, I've always been fascinated in with like the whole concept of balancing of the humors, which they like Greek mythology, no, not Greek mythology, like ancient Greek medicine talked about the four humors and balancing the four humors. Um, and my just like small, silly brain just thinks about it on a very base level of like when we say a sense of humor. Um, yeah, I think that like laughter really is the best medicine, and maintaining our sense of humor, no matter what, is just how to kind of deal with life. Um, because the thing about preserving our own sense of humor is not everyone is going to think that you're funny, and you're not going to think everyone else is funny. And the things that you find your way of having humor is going to be different from someone else's. And kind of like anything in life, if you try to cater to everybody, you completely lose yourself in your message, and you also lose what you find funny. So yeah, similar to, I think, honestly, I think similar to the whole thing about beauty and makeup, I do think of them as sort of related for some odd reason. Um, I think that there are so many choices that go into what you put on your face and how you make yourself look. And there are so many choices that go into kind of like how you engage in humor and what you find funny, but it all comes to this. There is sort of like a lightness of being that comes with it, of not taking yourself too seriously, and allowing joy into your heart and allowing like laughter and whatnot. And also, it's always interesting when you find people who maybe you like, but you just like your humors don't jive and like you don't share similar senses of humor. That doesn't mean that you don't like them. I'm thinking of myself. I think I speak too universally sometimes, but yeah, it doesn't mean that I don't like that person, and it doesn't mean that we can't connect in other ways, but it's always kind of interesting to observe someone who, you know, is maybe trying to be funny and it doesn't work for you, or when you're thinking you're funny and it doesn't work for someone else. It for me, I learn more about myself in those moments where I'm like, yeah, that didn't really hit for me. Nice. Hey, I think I'm just going to keep going with this. You learn more about yourself. Yeah. That didn't work. You learn more about yourself with the jokes that don't go over, or the people where their jokes don't go over. You learn a lot more about yourself in those moments. And similar when you see fashion and you're like, I don't like that. You learn way more about yourself when you see what you don't like than when you're just involved, when you're constantly around what you do like. And I think also with makeup, the reason why it's fun with makeup is because you can just try it and be like, oh, I don't like that. And then you just learned. I guess it's kind of an act of curation. And I think getting older sucks for me. I think getting older sucks in many ways. But the good part about getting older is that we have the gift of curation and this development of self and the resiliency of self, where you might think, oh, like you might have a moment where you don't necessarily like who you're becoming or who you see, but you know that that was intentional. In whatever way, who you've become has been an intentional choice. I really believe that. Like, I think therapists love to say that. Well, I always think about my therapist in college who said, you can't make a wrong choice because whatever choice you made was the right one because you made it. And I hate that, but I also think there's a lot of truth to it because, you know, like I think about, I was having a conversation one time about people who lose themselves to drugs and like what that does, especially kind of like hard narcotics. And basically the conversation was about how narcotics can, full disclosure, I have never used narcotics, so I don't really know what that would do to me. But basically how people who really struggle with serious addiction are kind of like in this pause state where they don't develop. That's the theory that this person was saying, is that like they don't really develop, and then they kind of emerge when they decide to get sober or decide to reclaim their life, and they realize that they had like been in this pause state due to, you know, let's say like a heroin addict or something like that. And I completely forget why I mentioned that. And it's 10 minutes now. So I completely forget why I was going down that path about drug use and what it, yeah, I have no idea. I kind of want to watch this back now to finish that thought. Maybe I'll watch this back another time or read the transcript another time to like really try to understand what the thread of that thought was, but I have no idea. I do know that maintaining your sense of humor. Oh, progression of self into adulthood. Yeah. Oh, I remember. So basically, like, you don't necessarily need to be in a K-hole for 15 years to have moments where you've kind of been on auto drive and then you're like, do I really like who I'm becoming? Is this person who I'm becoming what I really was setting out to be? Because there's the Instagram versus reality, or there's like the idea versus the execution, where you have the idea of what you want in your head, and then as the reality happens, you have to check in on that idea or the inspiration that had you setting out on that path in the first place, and say, is this really what I want, or do I need to tweak it, where it's like, yeah, maybe foundationally it's right, but there are some tweaks to this that need to happen so that I'm in better alignment with whatever I set out to do with the initial aspiration. So yeah, I'm over my initial time. I it's been brought to my attention that this is now going into spam folders because I've been doing this every day and I haven't been changing the setting about sending an email about this. So I'm just going to turn off the email feature and see, what happens there. And um I also shared my last video on my Instagram page, so I'm kind of curious to see. I know that like more people viewed this based on that. I also had a friend joke of like, is this how someone starts to make a podcast? Maybe this is a podcast. Maybe this is a daily podcast. I don't really know. I guess I could bring a guest in, but I don't know. Also, I changed up my routine today. So this is the first, other than drinking coffee, this is the first thing. Oh, and scrolling on my phone. Drinking coffee and scrolling on my phone. This is the first thing I've done today. Um, I just I feel like the routine has really been kind of like grating on me a little bit this morning, and I just didn't want to. I know I'll go for my walk. I know I'll do the things, but I just need a little bit of a mini shake up to how this morning is going. How today's morning is going. And yeah, I'm feeling really like I am feeling exposed in certain ways by doing this and having people know that I'm doing this. I know that I am not for everyone, and I say that not like that's a phrase that some artists in my community have introduced me to, that it feels like a mantra, the I am not for everyone mantra. So yeah, so I know me being like overly posting online is not for everyone, and that some people might not give a shit, and that's also the point. But I just feel like um I'm a big I think I'll have a I think I'll speak about like creative endurance at another time because that's a big topic that I like to talk about. And I also view my need for like self-expression and creative expression as this valve. I almost imagine like I know in certain like tidal areas of the ocean there's like a tidal valve that happens, and sometimes like it can get blocked or whatever. So I just always imagine my need for self-expression and my creative self as having this like tidal nature that has some like needs to kind of, if I don't if I'm not actively producing some form of self-expression that I'm excited about pretty much every day, it really takes a toll on my mental health. And I've been excited about this for a lot of reasons, and so I'm just going to keep doing it. And I guess it's a risk I'm willing to take to see if people are like, don't want to continue to engage or find me annoying. I think people have already found me annoying for a long time, so yep, I'm just going to keep going with it. And I'm also not going to edit out my dog barking in the middle of it because whatever.